This 29-year-old woman named Thua Hon has been in a 3-year relationship. After going out with her boyfriend, the two planned to kiss when suddenly Hon's mother appeared and stopped them. The mother scolded Hon for being out so late. Past 10:30 p.m., the boyfriend explained they were stuck in traffic. But the mother didn't believe him, questioning how there could be traffic so late. She then confronted the boyfriend, scolding him that even if they were married, they shouldn't be doing that on the streets. Amidst the chaos, the father and daughter could only look at each other, with the father pretending to have twisted his ankle to rescue the boyfriend. Back in Hon's room, the mother asked about the intimacy level of her daughter's relationship, wondering if they had gone that far, feeling it was a private matter. Hon didn't respond, but her mother warned her not to eat ice cream in front of the gate, as the woman would be the one suffering. The mother then brought up marriage, but Hon remained silent. At 29, all of Hon's friends were already married with kids, causing her mother much worry. The next morning at work, Ngo asked Hon to buy some things. In the elevator, Hon's mother called again, asking if she had slept with her boyfriend Jia Luong yet. She accidentally put it on speaker, so everyone heard and looked at Hon awkwardly. Then Di Kai Min walked out and bumped into Hon, spilling his coffee on his shirt. Hon apologized profusely and offered to clean it, introducing herself as an employee of the Botticelli Hotel. Min tried to tip her, but she declined due to hotel policy. Meanwhile, Jia Luong's mother brought food, but saw his fridge full, with a photo of him and Hon on top. She was pleased with the tidiness but unsatisfied as their backgrounds didn't match. Jia Luong had always hidden his family's wealth from Hon. At work, everyone was preparing for the arrival of the new foreign director, but they realized they forgot to order a cake. Seeing Hon's personal cake, they considered using it temporarily, until the new director Di Kai Min himself arrived. Hon intended to explain but held back seeing her worried colleagues. Min angrily fired her, blaming Ngo who had intentionally opened Hon's cake meant for her boyfriend, on which was written, "Eat this temporarily." Min assumed Hon was in charge of preparations, when in fact Ngo was truly responsible, while Hon had only come to assist. However, instead of being remorseful, Thua Hon blamed the director for intentionally causing trouble, thinking she might just turn from a carp into a dragon. She waited for Min to finish his meeting and asked for one more chance. He knew someone else had placed the cake, but when he asked, she took responsibility for it. Her final chance. The head of sales, Chu Chin, came to plead for her as Hon was their best employee. She had remained silent earlier to avoid everyone blaming each other. But to Min, someone unable to defend themselves didn't deserve sympathy, and he wouldn't give her a second chance. Seeing Hon dejected, Jia Luong consoled her, offering to support her financially, which she declined, saying constantly begging for chances would be annoying. With his meager salary, being able to support just himself was enough. She decided to ask Min for one final opportunity. Though the cake that angered him no longer existed, Luong gave her a talking toy to express his undying love, cheering her up with his devotion. At a fishing store, Min encountered Hon, who deliberately followed him pleading for another chance, which he ignored. When paying, he received a call, giving Hon a chance to prove herself. The caller mentioned Duck San Interiors, revealing Luong was the heir there while Hon was his girlfriend. Outside, she ran into her father, who had just become Min's driver. Min urgently needed to reach Tungjiang within an hour during rush hour traffic. Hon devised a plan, and they appeared on a jam-packed subway, then rented a bicycle to their destination, arriving 15 minutes early. Impressed she wasn't completely useless, Min gave her one more chance. The next day, he had an inconvenient client meeting, so he would let Hon handle it to determine her fate. Researching the client, Hon realized it was her boyfriend Luong's company, Duck San Interiors. The next day, Luong accompanied his father to Hon's workplace, disguising himself with a fake illness excuse before sneaking into the restroom. Hon spotted him attempting to leave but was caught by his father. Jia Liang could no longer hide it and took off his mask, telling his father that Shuahyun was his girlfriend. After Jia Liang's father left, Shuahyun was very angry because she had been deceived for 3 years. At first, Jia Liang pretended to be a country bumpkin who came to Shanghai. Shuahyun felt the food here didn't suit him, so she learned to cook rural dishes. Whatever shoes he liked, she would work overtime to save money to buy them. When his company wanted him to receive in-depth training, she helped make a plan for it. She had been manipulated like a puppet for 3 years. Now she found out Jia Liang was actually a rich heir who didn't need to struggle. Nearby, a camera powered by rice overheard their conversation and reported it to Jiming. Shuahyun went to tell Jiming what happened today. Because the new boss is Jia Liang's father, He suspected she was using their relationship to investigate the Dushan company, which is why today's collaboration didn't go as expected. Although Jiaming intentionally arranged this, he pretended not to know and said he would consider Shuahyun's situation, because her parents had been urging her. Yesterday she asked Jia Liang to come to her house for dinner. Her mother prepared many delicious dishes, and her father told her to make her boyfriend put on a good show. But today's events happened suddenly, leaving her unsure what to do. Shuahyun returned carrying 2 gift baskets, lying that Jia Liang had to work overtime, making her mother dislike him even more. Suddenly Jia Liang appeared outside to apologize to Shuahyun and confess his family's wealth, causing the neighbors to gather and watch. Her mother thought he was ranting, so she was going to scold him, but Shuahyun called her back. When she learned he was truly a rich heir in disguise, she turned to help Jia Liang and advised her daughter. But what angered Shuahyun was that he suspected she was only after his family's wealth, which is why he lied. Outside, her brother-in-law returned, and seeing his future brother-in-law apologizing below, he guessed Jia Liang must have caused a huge incident to make his kind sister so angry. He ignored Jia Liang's pleas for help and listened to his sister, going straight inside. A neighboring auntie, seeing he was making such a commotion, angrily came out with a cane to drive him away. In the end, Shuahyun had to go out to meet her boyfriend to avoid causing trouble with the neighbors. Jia Liang admitted he had lied, but it was his parents' idea out of fear he would be deceived as an ignorant person. Shuahyun understood their worries to some extent, but set the condition that going forward, they must rely on themselves to make money without depending on their parents. Moreover, they could never lie to each other about anything again. As the lovebirds started getting intimate again, Jiaming called to interrupt them. He decided to let Shuahyun continue working at the company. The next day, Gaoyu was surprised to see Shuahyun still working there. In the meeting, Jiaming announced he would cancel Shuahyun's punishment, for this project focused on the wedding season theme. He told everyone to complete it within a week and submit it to him, and the winner would receive a special reward. That night, Shuahyun stayed late to finish the work. While downstairs, Jia Liang waited hours for her to get off. When her mother scolded her for being late and heard Jia Liang's voice, she changed her attitude, agreeing for him to come over for dinner tomorrow and asking what he wanted to eat. The next day, Miss Truong's mother personally went into the kitchen to cook and entertain her future son-in-law, while on the other side, Jia Luong was preparing to leave when his mother came to find him. The day before, she had made an appointment for him to meet Ms. Truong, which his father had also arranged. Unable to refuse, he could only go see them for a little while and then say he would leave right away. Jia Luong honestly told Ms. Truong that he already had a girlfriend and the two loved each other very much, so he wanted her help to get past their parents. In another storyline, Kai Min went to the nursing home to visit the elderly lady and asked if her family had treated her badly, which was why she came here. She felt that her marriage to Mr. Mok was incomplete, so it was natural that his son disliked her. However, he had a very kind niece who had been coming to keep her company for years, and she heard that the niece also worked at Kai Min's company named Mok Home. When the two went to a restaurant, the elderly lady discovered that Jia Luong's girlfriend was with another girl. Jia Luong explained that this was the bride candidate arranged by his parents, and it was all a lie. On Thua Hon's side, her whole family was looking forward to the long-awaited son-in-law but had not seen him yet. At this point, the elderly lady texted her about the previous incident and told her to look into it. Thua Hon angrily ran out and texted her boyfriend not to come anymore. Just then, Jia Luong hurriedly came over wanting to explain. She could not accept this when her mother had been busy preparing since early morning, only to be let down. Thua Tao was about to run over when she saw her sister being wronged. Then suddenly, Mao Mao appeared and hit Jia Luong, after which the security also came and grabbed him for illegal parking. Inside, Mao Mao told everyone that she had divorced and Din Din would live with his father, surprising everyone since they used to be madly in love. Truong's mother felt that young people today take marriage and divorce too lightly. After eating, Thua Hon and Mao Mao went to the house that Thua Hon had saved up to buy. In the end, she decided to go with the flow. Even if she didn't get married, the two of them would travel together. Back at home, Thua Hon overheard her mother counting her savings and wanting to sell her jewelry to pay a dowry so she wouldn't lose face with her boyfriend's family. Going through everything gave her an idea for a new project. The next day, Kai Min was very upset with everyone's drafts because they didn't offer anything different. When it was Thua Hon's turn, her content for Valentine's Day was to celebrate 520 with her parents. They could encourage young people to bring their parents to the holiday event so the parents can share their love stories and tips with the couples. At the same time, the parents can enjoy the romantic atmosphere with their children. This approach would attract more people and lead to sustainable growth for the hotel in the future. Kai Min found Thua Hon's proposal reasonable and told everyone to use her draft to proceed. Called her and introduced Ha Dong as his new assistant. He then mentioned that the souvenir gift for this event would be products from Ducks and Furniture. and Thua Hon would be in charge of negotiating the prices. Thua Hon thought Kai Min wanted her to take advantage of her boyfriend's relationship to get the lowest prices, so she wanted to quit the project. However, he said she was overthinking it, as this was standard practice in the company. He assigned her because he saw her capabilities. Ha Dong felt Thua Hon was honest. But to Kai Min, she was just a pawn that suddenly appeared. As Thua Hon left, she saw flowers from Jia Luong apologizing, but she couldn't laugh. Lai Lai advised her to use this chance to discuss prices with her boyfriend. But after thinking it over, Thua Hon couldn't do that, and instead called Lai Lai for Mr. Vuong's number at Duck Sand Furniture. Thua Hon went to meet him, but Mr. Vuong wasn't there, so she waited until night. When he returned and saw her waiting, he invited her for dinner to discuss. Ha Dong reported this to Kai Min and worried that the executives there all had high alcohol tolerance. Ha Dong quickly arrived to protect Thua Hon, though he didn't understand why Kai Min was so anxious. Seeing Ha Dong not reporting on her situation made Kai Min restless. Ha Dong wanted to drink to help Thua Hon, but she grabbed the cup and drank it herself, surprising him with her skills. After pleasant conversation, she directly brought up the supply pricing for their products. Mr. Vuong offered a 10% discount, but when Jia Luong texted, he increased it to 20%. Unable to contact them, Kai Min went there and found the two drunk. Thua Hon proudly showed the deal and offered Kai Min a drink, but Ha Dong helped instead since Kai Min can't hold his liquor well. However, his masculine pride caused him to gulp the whole cup, passing out after 5 seconds. They eventually got a rickshaw to take the passed out Kai Min back, with Thua Hon covering his face to avoid photos in the news. Ha Dong suggested taking commemorative photos of her, and Kai Min then realized he forgot Kai Min's room key at the office. As he left to get it, Thua Hon dragged Kai Min up alone. When Kai Min suddenly jumped out, she had to drag him by the neck, alarming Ha Dong, who thought she was choking him when he returned. In the room, Kai Min stripped to go swimming until Ha Dong stopped him. Ha Dong took Kai Min's money to leave a tip, which Thua Hon refused before leaving quickly. The next morning, Ha Dong showed Kai Min the embarrassing photos videos from the night before. At work, Thua Hon explained she didn't leverage her boyfriend for pricing because she respects that relationship and didn't want to exploit it. After this incident, she was gifted 2 premium passes for the event, exciting her parents. On the event day, while her eager parents attended, Lai Lai reported all food tickets were sold out, but only half the expected guests had arrived. As Thua Hon went to investigate, the lights went out and a group performed, with a man in armor approaching her boyfriend Jia Luong. Taking this chance to apologize and propose, Thua Hon told him to kneel first, but he insisted she accept first. When her angry boss asked what was happening, Jia Luong held a sword to his neck threateningly. She hurriedly pulled her boyfriend out, realizing the discount vouchers were Mr. Vuong's doing on Jia Luong's instruction. As the event proceeded, she told Jia Luong to go home first to discuss later. However, he was already eating at her home when she arrived. A kid wanted his photo, but Jia Luong said he needed Thua Hon's permission first. He then showed the portable charger that had kept them together, hoping it could still fully charge their love like before. Thua Hon was finally moved and agreed to forgive Jia Luong. Going back, Jia Luong reported to his mother that he had successfully proposed to Thua Hon and from now on would not look at any other young ladies. Seeing that his mother said nothing, Jia Li was angry. In the past, when Thua Hon married into their family, she couldn't object or have much of a wedding ceremony, and even now she had no say, just to avoid his parents losing face. Yet the Mok family suddenly received a windfall blessing, which she could not stomach. At the company, Thua Hon came to report on the results from the previous day and also apologized to Kai Min about that surprise, but he felt she had created the situation to generate buzz. Thua Hon was going to explain, but he didn't care since the results were good. Looking at the cake she brought, he thought of his grandmother, who said she really liked Thua Hon, so now whatever his grandmother liked, he would like too. Perhaps Thua Hon was the key factor helping him get the Hung and Lai project. His grandmother immediately knew the cake box was made by Thua Hon and reminded Kai Min not to bully her. On Thua Hon's side, Jia Luong texted her that his mother had booked a restaurant for the two families to meet. As soon as her mother heard the news, she rummaged through her wardrobe to find clothes, not wanting to lose face with the other side. She then told Thua Hon's father to temporarily borrow Kai Min's car to appear proper. Tiu Tao also declined the opportunity to meet a famous lawyer who could have helped with his work for this same reason. The next day, while Thua Hon's father was driving for Kai Min and boss Truong, her mother called again, urging about borrowing the car and reminding him of the time years ago when he had helped Truong Boy Sin during a robbery encounter. Kai Min told him he didn't need to pick him up that day and should just enjoy being with family. However, Truong Boy Sin refused to lend the car because of how things had turned out. When old Mr. Mok was sick, she had paid his medical bills and treatment, and then gave him a job and even helped get a job for his daughter, so it was like being repaid in kind. The following day, Thua Hon took her mother shopping for clothes when they happened to run into Kai Min at the mall. He asked her if she would stop working after getting married, since he heard newlywed women usually stay at home. But she was certain she would keep working because her career was a very important part of her life. Afterwards, he went to a watch store and picked out a gold one to help her show off. The day the two families were supposed to meet had arrived, but Jia Luong's father was busy with a meeting and couldn't make it. Meanwhile, Jia Luong's older sister showed off her wealth by ordering separate dishes for herself, leaving the rest of the family to order for themselves, creating an awkward atmosphere. As the two sides conversed, Jia criticized Thua Hon's father for drinking excessively, saying it was impolite. She didn't stop there, but continuously attacked and mocked the other family while flaunting her own family's prestige. When discussing the wedding, Thua Hon's mother wanted to host a lively celebration with neighbors and invite her dance group friends, but Jia looked down on that, saying their family only associated with people of status. Inviting a crowd like that would make the bride's side feel uncomfortable. At this point, Thua Hon's mother had had enough and angrily told Jia to learn from her daughter's conduct. At such a young age, Jia was already being rude and acting snobbish over wealth. Jia was about to argue back when Jia Luong intervened, saying his sister was pregnant, which was affecting her mindset. However, hearing about the wedding plans, he also felt it sounded a bit too much like a flea market. This angered Thua Hon. Initially, when she loved Jia Luong, she didn't know about his family's status. If he hadn't begged and pleaded, there wouldn't even be this meeting. Furthermore, it was his family inviting hers, but when they met, they just kept insulting others. If things had come to this, then there was no need for this wedding. Jia continued making digs, causing Thua Hon's family to not be able to sit there a second longer. Jia Luong chased after her to apologize for today, but she could no longer accept it. An employee then came and gave her a gift from Kai Min, making Jia Luong jealous, but she didn't bother explaining and just left. Thua Hon called Kai Min, and he said it was a gift from Truong Boy Sin. He then reminded her that no one would care about her principles, only looking at actual ability. If she wanted to marry into a rich family, while also wanting to act high and mighty, she'd just have to endure it later. Although furious, when Thua Hon said she wouldn't marry, her mother tried to reconcile as she didn't want to miss out on a wealthy family. Thua Hon was determined not to marry because an extravagant wedding didn't mean a happy life. She then went to Mao Mao's to recount everything. Jia Luong kept texting apologies, but his attitude that day had left her disappointed. If he had just spoken up, perhaps the two sides wouldn't have argued so heatedly. Mao Mao took her to a bar to distress, then called Thua Tao to pick her up. He told Mao Mao he had just accepted a job at the reputable Fuong Nguyen law firm. Mao Mao excitedly told him to inform their parents, but Thua Tao was worried they were upset over the broken engagement, so he just needed Mao Mao's support. Drunk Thua Hon ran on stage, grabbed the mic, and announced to everyone her engagement was unsuccessful. Seeing this, Thua Tao pulled his drunken sister off stage. Thua Hon advised her brother that if he liked a girl in the future, he should seize the opportunity immediately no matter who she was. Thua Hon would support her as long as Thua Tao loved her. The next morning, Thua Hon apologized to her mother for raising her voice the previous day. She gifted her mother a new pair of earrings she bought and a freshly baked cake. Her mother then thought of a way to avoid losing face, asking the young people's grandmother for help. But her father definitely disagreed since that woman wasn't their real mother. Her mother went alone, but found the elderly lady was having afternoon tea at Hung and Lai. At Hung and Lai, Kai Min wanted to change the place's style, but his grandmother was attached to it and didn't want changes. Kai Min wanted to get his grandmother a medical card, but overhearing this, Thua Hon's mother thought he was a scammer trying to trick the elderly woman and rushed in to attack him. Thua Hon hurried over after hearing the news, only to find out her mother had beaten up the grandmother's blood-related grandson, who was none other than her own boss. Thua Hon's mother boasted to the grandmother that Thua Hon was about to get married, but lamented that the two families were not well matched, so she wanted to politely ask for a small dowry. This angered Thua Hon, as her mother still didn't understand the important thing wasn't the dowry, but their family's attitude. The grandmother then told Thua Hon to go for a walk with her. Thua Hon felt Jia Luong was a good person, thinking that as long as they tried together, they could be a happy couple. But after the two families met, she realized how naive she was, as marriage also requires harmony between the two families. The grandmother asked if Thua Hon needed her help, but she declined when she was ill as a child. The grandmother had paid for her treatment and care, but now that she was grown, she wanted to rely on herself. The grandmother took out a bracelet left behind by her late mother and gave it to Thua Hon. Meanwhile, Thua Hon's mother spoke to Kai Min, who said he came to scam his grandmother's insurance, which her mother actually believed and scolded him for, saying the elderly woman only had a small pension so he shouldn't take advantage of her situation. At the company, Boss Chu was busy, so he asked Thua Hon to deliver documents to Kai Min. Downstairs, she saw an overseas customer who had booked a room, but now there were no vacancies, angering him. Thua Hon went to defuse the situation for the front desk staff, but explained there were no available rooms due to an upcoming conference. Coincidentally seeing Kai Min nearby, she asked to borrow his presidential suite. which he happily agreed to. To thank him, Thua Hon invited Kai Min for coffee and also wanted to inquire about his relationship with his grandmother. He felt they had no blood relation, yet she regularly visited. But Thua Hon refuted that if blood was so important, why had no one from his family visited the grandmother all this time? Kai Min revealed that after his grandparents married, his grandfather had another woman, which his grandmother couldn't accept, so she firmly divorced him. While the grandfather and Kai Min's father went abroad to work, Thua Hon was surprised the grandmother had gone through so much and agreed to visit her with Kai Min when she had time. In another storyline, Thua Hon's mother made her father bring gifts to scout out Jia Luong's father. After meeting, they learned he planned to go to Di Kai Min's company, and since he was Kai Min's driver, he took them there directly. In the car, Jia Luong's father found out Thua Hon's family and Di Kai Min's had some relation, so when he returned home he told his wife and wanted to maintain that connection to facilitate business dealing. As for Thua Tao, he went for an internship at the new company, but when they reviewed his file they mocked it since his school had no reputation. Despite his high scores, what they wanted to see was effort. At this time, Jia Luong's mother came to make amends with Thua Hon's mother and inquire about Di Kai Min, as they wanted Thua Hon's family to help with the upcoming bid for Kai Min's company. She then invited Thua Tao to work at her Thua Nguyen law firm. Coincidentally, Thua Tao was also interning there, so she wanted to officially hire him. Hearing this, Thua Hon's mother immediately agreed. As for the matter with Di Kai Min, she promised to arrange it. The next day, Thua Hon's mother went to the company to find Kai Min. After hearing the full story, Kai Min wondered if Thua Hon knew about it, as he understood her character was not like that. At this point, Thua Hon returned and heard her mother had come, so she hurriedly ran over and pulled her mother outside. Ha Dong felt the fish Kai Min was angling for had taken the bait. Kai Min instructed him to tell Chu Chin to promote Thua Hon to be his personal assistant, directly reporting on the upcoming bid. Thua Tao knew about this and disapproved of his mother using his sister's marriage as a transaction like this. At his new company, everyone gossiped about his credentials, so Thua Tao wanted to rise up and prove himself. However, what his mother just did really demoralized him. In the past, it was the same for Thua Hon because their mother asked Mrs. Truong Boy Sin for help getting her into the company. No matter how hard Thua Hon tried, if she made even a small mistake, people would say she got in through the back door. However, Thua Hon still reassured her brother to just focus on working hard, and she would resolve the family matters satisfactorily. The next day when Thua Tao went to work, everyone was friendly. Even Boss Liu kindly had someone brew tea and pour water for him. But Thua Tao didn't feel happy. On the other side, as soon as Thua Hon arrived, everyone congratulated her on the promotion. Confusing her, Kai Min called her over to give her an invitation to the bidding event. Thua Hon asked if she was promoted to tie the two companies together, but from their perspective as Party A, he didn't necessarily need to do that. In the end, Thua Hon felt reassured to work and promised to separate work and personal matters. When Thua Hon brought the documents to Duc San, she happened to run into Jia Luong. He didn't know anything about his mother meeting Thua Hon's mother, only seeing the support for Thua Tao as a good thing. At this point, there was a call that the meeting time at the company had arrived, so he left first. Chu Bao Qiu saw Thua Hon and called her over, as the two were former classmates, and now Thua Hon was Boss Tan's assistant. Chu Bao Qiu mentioned that Di Kai Min could use this bidding opportunity to end the cooperation with Duc San. Therefore, Boss Tan had been very worried recently. If this bid failed, the Tan family would have to close down their business. She felt that since Thua Hon was about to become the Tan family's daughter-in-law, she should help them with this matter. Although Thua Hon had never heard Di Kai Min mention that, to her, the company's confidentiality could not be disclosed. She also would not abuse her authority because she had no right to interfere with her boss's decisions. When Chu Bao Qiu asked for her help and she refused, Chu Bao Qiu went to find Nyo to assist her, along with a generous reward once the task was done. Jia Liang came to the company and wanted to take her to the new house his father had bought for the two of them after getting married. He said he would immediately transfer the ownership to her if she agreed, but Thra Hon understood he was doing this because he wanted her help with the bidding project. So she immediately refused. While working, Thra Tao discovered Thra Hon and Jia Liang's prenuptial agreement and informed Jia Liang's sister. Thra Hon was furious, thinking the Tan family was setting a trap for her, wanting her help but also being wary of her. Jia Liang didn't know about this, but she didn't want to listen. She said she wouldn't take the house, wouldn't participate in the bidding, and wouldn't sign the prenuptial agreement. When Jia Liang returned and found out his mother and sister did this, he was angry. When Mr. Tan heard about it, he didn't understand why they were asking for Thra Hon's help, but also made that agreement, which was like slapping him in the face. The next day, he went to discuss it with Di Kai Min. Afterwards, Di Kai Min asked Thra Hon to see Mr. Tan out, and Mr. Tan apologized for the agreement, saying it was his wife's idea. He then invited Thra Hon to visit his home sometime. Thra Hon said regarding the bidding, she hoped Duc San would win based on their own merits, but she couldn't help them. Ha Dong felt Di Kai Min's plan for the bidding was putting Thra Hon in a difficult position, since their relationship was like siblings and she always did her job well with integrity. On the bidding day, Ha Dong distributed materials that made everyone change their expression. Lee Kai-min wanted an excuse for Thra Hon to leave, but she had already done her part, so he was helpless. Seeing everyone's reaction, Chu Bao-kyu felt something was off, but Mr. Kning Tan was still confident they would win. When the winning company Thien Hop was announced, Mr. Tan couldn't accept it since their price was also within the winning range. Truong Boy Sin then showed him the commission discount sheet, which Mr. Tan recognized was the one he had given to Thra Hon, though she didn't know about it. In front of everyone, he accused her of exploiting her relationship with his son to lower the product price. But Lee Kai-min didn't care since at that time Thra Hon was just working in sales. Then Chu Bao-kyu accused someone at Lee Kai-min's Viet Dat company of intentionally leaking the bid price. After the meeting, Thra Hon went to explain to Jia Liang that she didn't know anything, but he left. She then went to Lee Kai-min and realized from start to finish he had used her to get rid of the Tan family and Danny's company. She thought he truly valued her and was grateful since they had taken care of his grandmother together and were like family. But now she understood that in the workplace there are no friends or family. Thua Hon did not want to bring shame to the headquarters, so she decided to leave. The accusations made her cry in the bathroom. Lee Kai-min requested security footage from the administrative office for that month. Remembering Thua Hon's words, he went to see his grandmother. His grandmother could tell there was conflict between them and advised him not to view others pessimistically. If he dared mistreat Thua Hon, he would suffer later. Kai-min then asked Thua Dong to find a good position for Thua Hon at the company. In another scene, Kai-min congratulated Truong Boy Sin for exposing Danny's corruption. Thua Hon was the victim in leaking the bid, and for Kai-min she was key to winning the Hung Jia Lai project that got him promoted back to headquarters. Elsewhere, Mao Mao, Thua Hon and Tiu Tao were bad-mouthing Jia Luong and Kai-min. Tiu Bao said Thua Hon shouldn't take the blame for others, but Thua Hon didn't want to leave with a bad reputation. Just then, she got a call that her office computer was seized for inspection and the camera sealed. Tiu Tao told her to investigate others. Thua Hon confronted Chu Bao-kyu about it, but she wouldn't explain. This disgusted Thua Hon about her former friend. If she allied with Bao-kyu now, it would be a life mistake, making her angrily leave. Lai Ha also found that someone used Thua Hon's computer to send emails, but didn't know who. With evidence, Thua Hon accused Ngo-u, trapping her in a recorded confession. Before Kai-min, Ngo-u apologized, but Thua Hon wouldn't forgive her repeated attempts to harm her. Seeing Thua Hon threaten the police, Ngo-u cried about her poverty. Thua Hon said her family wasn't well off either, so don't step on others to get money. Kai-min fired and handed Ngo-u to the police. Thua Hon was then transferred to the hotel management department. Mr. Terzitan learned the Viet Dat mole was caught, which could affect soliciting investment if Duc San's Viet Dat bribery leaked, so he fired Bao-kyu for accepting bribes. Finally, after Thua Hon joined the hotel, Truong Viet Han gave her a tour of the place and her new workplace. After joining the hotel, Truong Viet Han warned Thua Hon about the extremely difficult guest in room 513 who also owed 1 year's worth of service fees. When Thua Hon went to greet this guest Tran Ny, she thought Thua Hon was there to collect fees and rudely berated her. Thua Hon could only patiently say she would serve everyone her best. Thinking Thua Hon was a staff member, Tran Ny demanded she go buy bubble tea, shocking Thua Hon. She then made Thua Hon run errands like a maid walking her dog, fetching her things. Watching this, Lee Kai-min, who had just transferred there, told Thua Hon he asked her to come help, continuously making things difficult for her. Thua Hon felt her life was so unlucky. As she left, Kai-min reminded her to just address necessary customer issues, not do everything asked. Back at the office, Thua Hon investigated and found Tran Ny had posted ads on the condo owners group that management blocked, making her take out her anger on Thua Hon. In another scene, Professor Liu deliberately made Thua Dao go inspect a remote factory, making him late for a meeting. This angered his boss, who didn't want him ruining young talents. Embarrassed in front of everyone, Professor Liu was unhappy and warned Thua Tao. At the hotel, Thua Hon also found Tran Ny to give her an invitation to the hotel's wine party. Seeing Thua Hon serve wholeheartedly to ensure service quality made Ny happily pay the outstanding service fees. That night, Tiu Tao told Thua Hon to inform her parents about the situation between her and Jia Luong. Tiu Tao advised her to break up with him because he was a bad man, and he had also quit his job there. Thua Hon's parents, who were at the supermarket, also realized something was off about their daughter's relationship with Jia Luong. Her mother was always worried since Thua Hon was almost 30, but no one wanted to marry her. The next morning, Thua Hon's mother brought homemade food to Jia Luong's family, But his mother disregarded her and said directly that the two were fighting and what Thua Hon did was very serious. However, Thua Hon's mother was convinced her daughter did not do this and that Jia Luong's family was wrongly accusing her. Previously, Jia had forced Thua Hon to sign a prenuptial agreement, angering her mother. So when Jia said their home lacked education, it was the last straw for Thua Hon. Furious, she spoke her mind, saying the bid document leak was not her doing. Thua Hon also declared that she and Jia Luong had separated, with no relationship left. Seeing Thua Hon angrily leave, Jia Luong chased her in the rain, but she ignored him. He wanted them to go back to how they were before, but Thua Hon said it was impossible, they were too different in status, and he was nowhere to be seen when she faced criticism. Thua Hon really did not want to continue this relationship, though Jia Luong hoped she could understand him. As he was explaining, Kai Min's car also arrived. For Thua Hon, the matter was clear she did not want to continue, leaving Jia Luong's umbrella behind as she left. After years together, their breakup was like the sky crying for their relationship too, proving that even the sweetest words turn to clouds eventually. Seeing this, Kai Min let Thua Hon's father take the two of them home. That night, the dejected Thua Hon sat in the bathroom. Her mother, hearing no sound, thought she had committed suicide and wanted to barge in. Tiu Tao told Thua Hon that breaking up with Jia Luong was the right choice, but she did not want Thua Hon to quit her job over this. The next morning, Thua Hon arrived at the hotel in a daze, not paying attention and falling down. After Mao Mao came and learned of their breakup, Thua Hon hugged and cried on her, and Mao Mao said separating was the right choice, so she need not be sad. Seeing Thua Hon's mood was not improving at all, her mother wanted to go to Jia Luong's house to reconcile, but her father prevented her, believing Thua Hon had made her own choice. The next morning, he went to tell his mother about Thua Hon and Jia Luong's situation. Seeing that his daughter often listened to her grandmother, he wanted the grandmother to counsel Thua Hon. The grandmother then called Thua Hon over to talk. Without prompting, Thua Hon hugged her grandmother and cried, saying that breaking up with Jia Luong was the right choice and she had no regrets. Seeing this, the grandmother teased Thua Hon, saying if she met someone like Jia Luong, she would also flirt with him. She consoled Thua Hon, telling her she could come to share anything, then patted Thua Hon like a child. In another development, the uncle-niece affair between Chu Bao Qiu and Mr. Tan was getting intimate in the car, but he was currently too busy to visit her. That night, Thua Hon deleted all images related to Jia Luong, along with her farewell smile. At the same time, Kai Min also told his grandmother that he had long-term plans with Thua Hon if the grandmother left Hung and Y to him. Currently, Thua Hon's mood was not good, so Kai Min wanted to take her and his grandmother on a trip. Seeing that he was also ambitious, the grandmother would consider this matter. At home, Thua Hon's mother wanted to invite her daughter out over the weekend, so the grandmother also called to invite Thua Hon to go with her. But on the day of the trip, seeing Kai Min coming to pick them up left Thua Hon very surprised. But as soon as they got in the car, the couple started bickering like cats and dogs, making the grandmother unable to stop laughing. Kai Min kept mentioning Jia Luong, angering Thua Hon, but he still playfully teased her. After arriving, the grandmother didn't like the style of this place very much. Kai Min believed he could turn Hung and Lai into a more upscale and luxurious hotel. This made the grandmother feel that Kai Min was very much like his grandfather, wanting everything to be perfect. Thua Hon immediately criticized the poor ground service at this hotel. The staff was unreliable, and the breakfast items were all cheap imports. This made the manager here awkwardly say that they would gradually improve, but Kai Min wanted to replace all the staff instead. Thua Hon felt his desire to fire all the staff was unreasonable, so the two bickered again. Afterwards, the three of them went into the forest together. Seeing Kai Min continuously trying to get a signal made the two grandmother and granddaughter think he was really foolish. Thua Hon felt Kai Min was a dark-hearted, unkind person, but the grandmother said he might not be a bad person, perhaps because no one treated him well when he was little, resulting in his current personality. In another scene, Kai Min suddenly passed out, worrying Thua Hon, who called for help. After he woke up, seeing that Kai Min had a meeting the next afternoon, Thua Hon turned off his phone, telling him to pay attention to his health. Currently, Kai Min had kidney stones, so Thua Hon reminded him to keep drinking water as the doctor had warned him. Moreover, the hotel staff earlier were all locals, so Thua Hon wanted him to give them time to improve. If it weren't for them earlier, he might have lost his life. Thua Hon said that while Kai Min was passed out, his family had called him many times, but Kai Min said he had no family, and his grandmother was his only relative. It was then that Thua Hon realized his circumstances were truly pitiful. Before returning, Kai Min also apologized to Thua Hon about the bidding incident. Back at the hotel, Thua Hon learned that Bao Qiu had transferred there. She was surprised to see intimate images of Mr. Tan and Chu Bao Qiu. leaving her embarrassed. In the parking garage, Kai Min also overheard the conversation of the uncle-niece lovers, learning that Bao Qiu wanted Mr. Tan to divorce his wife. Bao Qiu then called Thua Hon over, but Thua Hon knew she deliberately let her see the earlier scene. Thua Hon felt taking shortcuts like her would certainly not bring any benefits. Bao Qiu hoped Thua Hon wouldn't tell anyone about the earlier incident, but Thua Hon didn't care. However, as soon as she went out, Thua Hon received Mr. Tan's ATM card as a silencing fee. Fearing she would tell Jia Luong, Mr. Tan demanded Jia Luong block all communication between him and Thua Hon upon returning home. That night, Kai Min also came to remind Thua Hon about Mr. Tan and Bao Qiu's situation. Thua Hon didn't want to pay attention to their affair, only caring about work. Seeing Kai Min wanted to fulfill his grandmother's wish of taking good care of her, Thua Hon wanted him to re-sign a contract with her. Shortly after, she also received a call that her house had a water pipe burst. After returning to find her house flooded, Thua Hon and Mao Mao said their family would have to stay at the hotel until the repairs were done. But at the hotel, her mother was worried about the expensive costs and wanted to return home. However, Thua Hon said that was impossible as their house had deteriorated and needed renovations, causing her parents to continue arguing about spending money. Back home cleaning up, Tiu Tao found old toys, but had no impression of them. Thua Hon said these were things her mother bought for him every Tet holiday, but at that time he often stayed with his grandmother instead of at home, so their mother had kept them neatly in the cabinet. Although their mother had a sharp tongue, she was very loving and often expressed affection through actions. It was then that Tiu Tao truly understood his mother, feeling some regret. The next morning, the repairman said renovating the house would take 1-2 months. Hearing this, Thua Hon wanted her family to temporarily rent another house, but her parents objected as it would be too wasteful. As soon as he arrived at the company, Kai Min told Thua Hon to bring her family to the hotel, and he would give them a big discount. But whenever she couldn't handle it anymore, she could ask him for help. Kai Min then told Ha Dong to bring the construction crew to renovate Thua Hon's house, but had to let Tiat Lai go and offer the lowest price for Thua Hon to accept. At the same time, Thua Tao was scolded by Lu Duton for not submitting a customer report to him. The man also criticized him for sneaking home the previous night while the whole company was working overtime. Thua Tao said he had asked for and received permission, but the man denied hearing it. Angrily, Thua Tao went to see the lawyer to request changing teams, but the lawyer sided with Lu Duton instead. When Thua Tao demanded his salary, the lawyer criticized him for even daring to ask for it after behaving that way. This angered Thua Tao so much that he cursed the man, saying they were unworthy of being lawyers, before resigning. According to Kai Min, Tiat Lai also sent Thua Hon information about the construction team along with a reasonable price for her to consider. Shortly after, Kai Min received news that Thua Hon had agreed to the request after Tiat Lai visited her. He then went to ask Tran and Wai to award Thua Hon a title to cheer her up. In another development, Bao Qiu informed Tan Kai San that she was pregnant and wanted him to divorce his wife. Immediately, he went to tell Bao Qiu that he could fulfill any of her desires except for divorce. Hearing this, Bao Qiu wanted to cause a scene in a crowded place and pushed Kai San, causing him to unexpectedly pass out. Meanwhile, Thua Hon received the Big Mother title awarded by everyone on the 5th floor, making her extremely happy. Just as Thua Hon was thanking Kai Min for his help, she immediately received an emergency call from Bao Qiu. Bao Qiu lied that she wanted to break up with Tan Kai San, but he disagreed and had a brain hemorrhage, currently in emergency care. Without enough money for medical fees, Bao Qiu could only ask for Thua Hon's help, but Thua Hon refused, telling her to contact his family instead. Seeing this, Kai Min also reminded Thua Hon not to get involved in this matter. However, while working, Bao Qiu kept calling, causing Thua Hon to soften and take the card to go there, but Kai Min blocked her at the door. Thua Hon said she didn't want to interfere, only to pay the money. But the doctor said the surgery would be risky since Bao Qiu had left, so Thua Hon had to call Jia Luong. As he was on the way, he asked her to sign for him. After Thua Hon signed, Kai Min said if the surgery failed, the consequences would be severe. But in the urgent situation, she could only think of saving him. Immediately after, Tan Kai San's family also arrived, frantically begging Thua Hon not to tell them, but Jia Li already knew about the two. Hearing that Bao Qiu was pregnant with Kai San's child, his wife fainted. Jia Li blamed everything on Thua Hon, saying she colluded with Bao Qiu, who then took this opportunity to flee. Thua Hon said she couldn't care less about their family matter and returned his card before leaving. After Tan Kai San woke up, his wife also left, not wanting to see his face. He then realized Thua Hon was a good girl and called to apologize. That night, knowing her mother intended to divorce, Jia Han told Jia Luong to marry Thua Hon. Though they had broken up, they still loved each other, so they could reconcile. Since Thua Hon was their family's benefactor, marrying her could keep the family together. The next morning, when Thua Hon returned home, she learned that the neighboring alley 111 was being demolished, but not their alley, upsetting her mother. Because their house had a power outage and they couldn't cook rice, the whole family ended up going out to eat instant noodles. Feeling the family's conditions were lacking, Thua Hon's mother wanted her to return to her fiancé's family. However, Thua Hon found her mother's constant talking irritating and expressed that it was impossible. Seeing that all three family members opposed her, Thua Hon's mother left in frustration. Thua Hon chased after her to apologize and persuade her, but her mother remained adamant. That evening, while Thua Hon was calculating finances, she received money unexpectedly from Tiu Tao. Despite not wanting to take it, Tiu Tao insisted, saying he was part of the family and should contribute some capital. After resigning from the law firm, Tiu Tao had become a fast food delivery person. While Thua Hon was being criticized by a hotel for not allowing food delivery, Jia Luong arrived. Jia Luong wanted Thua Hon to work at the hotel with a salary of 30,000 RMB. Kai Min also showed up, aware of Thua Hon's personality, and chose not to intervene in their conversation. She straightforwardly refused the offer, not wanting to bear the label of entering through the back door and then leaving. In another scene, while reviewing a house renovation contract, Thua Hon unexpectedly discovered her younger brother working as a delivery person. Returning home, Tiu Tao still claimed to be a lawyer until Thua Hon noticed the injury on his hand and hugged him. Learning that Tiu Tao faced numerous frustrations at the law firm, Thua Hon also felt annoyed, but knew his delivery job was temporary and he was seeking other employment. Jia saw Jia Luong returning home, unable to reconcile with Thua Hon, and berated him as useless. Jia Luong defended himself, stating the family's damages to Thua Hon made it impossible for her to return. That night, Thua Hon's mother received an apology message from Jia Luong, asking for a chance and proposing they could visit a new house tomorrow. However, upon arrival, they were met not by Jia Luong but by Jia Le, who apologized for the previous incident and asked her to reconsider the marriage. Jia Le returned to inform her younger brother the good news, but Jia Luong asserted that Thua Hon would surely not agree. He pleaded for them not to meddle further as the situation was irreparable. On the other side, Thua Hon's mother was already preparing for the wedding, lying that she wanted to take her out for dinner at the hotel where she worked. After urging Thua Hon to quickly change clothes and lead her to the wedding, when they stepped inside, Thua Hon realized it was her own wedding, and Jia Luong just found out he had been deceived by his mother. Upon hearing this news, Kai Min immediately went to search for her. Things at the wedding party gradually became complicated, but due to her mother's reputation, Hon could only go up on stage. The surprise came when Thua Hon outright refused this marriage, embarrassing both families. Despite her mother's continuous advice, Thua Hon remained firm and left, angering her mother, who declared that if she left, she would no longer be her daughter. At that moment, Thua Hon poured out all the pent-up grievances she had endured for so long, but in return, she received a slap from her mother, leaving her disappointed. She snatched the necklace from her neck and left. Thua Hon's father later sought out Jia Luong's family, hoping they wouldn't bother them in the future. Their family's reputation had also suffered, leading to an argument between the two fathers, causing one to faint in anger. Immediately after, Kai Min also came to comfort Thua Hon, who expressed her desire to prioritize her own happiness rather than pleasing others. That night, Thua Hon returned home to pack her things, ignoring her mother's continuous scolding as she left. Seeing her daughter like this, Thua Hon's father hurriedly chased after her to give her the money he had saved up. He had always known about all the suffering Thua Hon had endured and would support whatever decision she made. As Thua Hon stepped out, Kai Min was already waiting to arrange accommodation for her. At this moment, Mao Mao also arrived, wanting to take Thua Hon back home, but she felt it wouldn't be convenient. Seeing Kai Min also wanting to take Thua Hon, Mao Mao immediately criticized him, accusing him of causing trouble for Thua Hon and now pretending to help. Thua Hon quickly apologized and dragged Mao Mao away. On the way, Mao Mao felt that Thua Hon's life was truly unlucky due to her mother's mistake. Mao Mao advised her to temporarily stay away from home for a while. Thua Hon revealed that it wasn't just her, even Tiu Tao had faced difficulties after their breakup. He had been harassed by the law firm, leading him to become a delivery person, but he remained optimistic. Finally, Thua Hon arrived at her grandmother's place, who, upon learning everything, advised her to live for herself. Thua Hon then returned the necklace that Mao Mao had given her, which contained a photo of the two of them inside. The next morning, Kai Min visited Thua Hon's grandmother, ostensibly to see her but actually to visit Thua Hon. Though she knew his intentions, she let him go, and he immediately offered to help with household chores while Thua Hon supervised. However, seeing Kai Min doing things incorrectly, Thua Hon continuously reminded him, While making the bed, Kai Min teased her to make her happier by sharing her life experiences. At Thua Hon's mother's house, seeing her daughter not returning, she became angry and vented her frustration. Thua Hon and Ayan Ngak had a heated argument and moved out of the house. Thua Hon paid a team to decorate the house, but Ayan Ngak was still furious and chased the decoration team away. She would rather live in a dilapidated house than accept Thua Hon's offer. Even though Lai Thiem, Thua Hon's stepfather, tried his best to persuade her, it was in vain. Vin Han heard Thua Hon mention that Tiu Tao was preparing to work as a food delivery person, so she forcefully called him, taking him to the mall to buy clothes, encouraging Tiu Tao to cheer up and find a suitable law firm to work for. Although Tiu Tao didn't want to, he still tried on the outfit. Vin Han's eyes brightened, continuously praising him for his good looks. Blushing with excitement, Vin Han personally tied a tie for Tiu Tao. Looking straight into his eyes, the relationship between Bao Qiu and Kai San was exposed, and Kai San suffered a stroke, leaving him paralyzed on one side. Bao Qiu, feeling ashamed, continued to live in the apartment. She packed her belongings and prepared to leave Shanghai. Then Chu Bao Qiu admitted that she wasn't actually pregnant. She just wanted to use that as an excuse to force Kai San to divorce her. However, she ultimately had to persuade her to take care of him. Vin Han designed a necklace inspired by Tiu Tao, hoping it would sell well, and promised to thank him. Tiu Tao coincidentally met his older brother at the law firm and learned about the desperate situation of Jia Li's family. Kai Min met Thua Hon at the apartment's restaurant, teasing her about him wearing a suit every day, which was too rigid and monotonous for Kai Min to comment on. Since he was here, Thua Hon invited Kai Min and Ha Dong to stay and have skewers and beer with everyone. After the meal, Kai Min took Thua Hon back to the nursing home and suggested she join the management team for phase 2 of the apartment complex. Thua Hon happily agreed. Ayan Ngak couldn't sleep every night, feeling upset, while Lai Thiem, seeing this, was worried. Tiu Tao officially joined the high-level team, living a fulfilling and happy life every day. Thua Hon's father brought her some personal items, and she gave him the salary she had earned for the month. Hui Dan came to Vin Han's shop, accusing her of plagiarizing his work. Thua Hon, furious, scolded Hui Dan, who had actually sued Vin Han, an independent brand, resulting in Vin Han's frustration. That night, Thua Hon stayed up late planning, and Thuc Tran, unable to sleep, gave her advice. Today, early in the morning, Kai Min went to see Thuc Tran. Seeing Thua Hon still asleep, he took a photo of her sleeping. When Thua Hon woke up and saw this, she was angry with him. Fortunately, Thuc Tran quickly got up to disperse them and asked Kai Min to give Thua Hon some advice. Kai Min took Thua Hon out for breakfast and reviewed her design plan. He suggested designing a souvenir for Botticelli to open a door and discuss with Vin Han without eating. Bo Sin personally came to talk to Thuc Tran about cooperation. At this moment, Kai Min turned strange and invited Bo Sin out to talk. Kai Min reminded Bo Sin not to act too hastily. When he returned to the nursing home and saw Thuc Tran fainting in the bathroom, he quickly took her to the hospital. Hui Dan bought an extravagant product designed by Vin Han, returned it without opening the box, deliberately giving a bad review, angering Vin Han to the point of wanting to sue Hui Dan. Thua Hon requested that she use public opinion to pressure Hui Dan. Kai Min took Thuc Tran to the hospital and immediately called Thua Hon, who rushed to the hospital without saying anything. After the concerted efforts of the medical staff, Thuc Tran finally stabilized. Thua Hon regretted staying up late last night to comfort Thuc Tran, and Kai Min admitted that he had returned to China this time because of the hotel incident. Thuc Tran seemed embarrassed, but Kai Min no longer pressured her. Tiu Tao went to the hospital with his parents to see Thuc Tran. She hurried down to greet them. Ayan Ngak, seeing Thua Hon unsteady and not wanting to inquire directly, asked Thua Hon to inquire on her behalf, which she did hesitantly. Thuc Tran saw Ayan Ngak and Thua Hon looking very happy. Thuc Tran suggested that they live in her garden house. Ayan Ngak and Lai Thiem couldn't refuse, so Thua Hon took her parents and Tiu Tao to see the house. Thuc Tran's house was spacious, making Ayan Ngak smile happily. Thua Hon couldn't help but worry about Thuc Tran, so she opened the door for them and went back to the hospital. Ayan Ngak and Lai Thiem were dissatisfied and bitter in front of each other. Lai Thiem said, "You're right." She had persuaded Thuc Tran cleverly. If Ayan Ngak invited Thuc Tran to dinner at her house, Thua Hon would naturally return with her. Thua Hon hurried to the hospital, changed Kai Min, and then returned to rest. Thuc Tran explained that the house was her honeymoon suite with Kai Min's grandfather, and there were many unhappy memories there. Then Thuc Tran persuaded Thua Hon and Ayan Ngak. After making peace, Thua Hon dug up the advertising video she had shot for Vin Han. Thuc Tran wanted to learn how to shoot videos with Thua Hon, and she agreed to teach her tomorrow. Thuc Tran carefully reviewed the design plan presented by Bo Sin. She disagreed with returning the hotel to Botticelli. She had managed it carefully for many years and had a harmonious relationship with the staff, feeling a little relieved and wanting to wear a gray suit home from the hospital. Thua Hon and Tu Tao accompanied Vin Han during the live broadcast to reveal all the evidence of Hui Dan's plagiarism, and Tu Tao felt something was wrong as Hui Dan had tens of millions of fans and would do anything to fight back. To deal with Vin Han's decision, Thuc Tran watched Vin Han's live broadcast and gave gifts under Kai Min's guidance. Tu Tao intended to return to dinner with Thuc Tran, so he asked Tu Tao to continue the live broadcast with Vin Han. Kai Min wanted to give Thuc Tran a gray suit, so Thua Hon took him to one of Shanghai's oldest and most famous tailors, carefully selecting fabric and style. Vin Han repeatedly pierced her ears too many times, causing her earlobes to become infected. Tu Tao helped disinfect them randomly, making him blush with embarrassment. Today is the day Thuc Tran is discharged from the hospital. Ian Ngok and Lai Thiem discussed directly about bringing her home. Lai Thiem placed a bouquet of roses for Thuc Tran at Thua Hon's request. He came to pick her up with flowers in hand. Thuc Tran had just finished talking to her lawyer. Lai Thiem wanted to take her home, but Thuc Tran was used to being alone and wanted Kai Min to send her back to the nursing home. She also invited Lai Thiem, Ian Ngok, and Tu Tao to dinner at the hotel tonight. Thuc Tran called Thua Hon to inform her that she had specially ordered the crab egg cake that Thua Hon liked. In addition, Thua Hon had a mysterious gift for Thuc Tran. Thuc Tran was discharged from the hospital today, in good spirits, and was dancing with the roses she was gifted when she suddenly experienced a heart attack and passed away. Kai Min had prepared a gray suit for her since early in the morning. Then he went to pick her up from the hospital. Thua Tao, along with Ian Ngok and Lai Thiem, arrived at the hospital early. Thuc Tran passed away due to ineffective treatment for her heart condition. Thua Hon knew that Thuc Tran loved dancing the most, so he bought her a pair of dancing shoes. Thua Hon happily rushed to the hospital. Both he and Kai Min went to the hospital room and witnessed Thuc Tran's passing, feeling deeply saddened. Relatives and friends attended Thuc Tran's funeral. The lawyer played a video about Thuc Tran's life before the public, where she expressed her contentment with life and the love of her family and friends. She left a message to reconcile family members, and although Lai Thiem was not her biological relative, she considered Thua Tao her grandson and hoped for his happiness. She wished for Ian Ngok to live freely and not worry about her children's marriages. Thuc Tran was closest to Thua Hon throughout her life, and although they weren't blood-related, she wished happiness for him and advised him to take care of himself. Thuc Tran's touching words moved everyone present. After the funeral, Thua Hon sat silently crying, and Ian Ngok took the initiative to reconcile with her. When she saw Ian Ngok's bleeding foot, she helped her bandage it and then went to Lai Thiem and asked Thua Hon if they could have dinner together tonight. Thua Hon wanted to visit Thuc Tran's residence before going home. He went to the nursing home, standing in the room where Thuc Tran had lived, thinking about her voice and smile, but feeling a mix of emotions. On Thuc Tran's bed, Kai Min lost his only relative. He sat in the courtyard, feeling increasingly sad, until he couldn't hold back his tears. That night, Thuc Tran appeared in Thua Hon's dream and talked to her a lot. Thua Hon bid farewell to Thuc Tran in tears, and Kai Min had been at the nursing home since early in the morning, detailing what he and Thua Hon had been through as children. His father's business failures and constant creditors demanding debts, Thuc Tran came into Kai Min's life at a crucial time, where she used her money to pay off his father's foreign debts and cover living expenses and tuition for Kai Min. Kai Min worked harder to achieve his current success. Thua Hon believed that Thuc Tran was watching over them from heaven and blessing them. He quickly got back to work despite his colleagues' advice to rest. Kai Min was so sad that he couldn't eat, working day and night until he was numb. Hadong was very worried and called Thua Hon to persuade him. Mock Thua Hon went to meet Kai Min, convincing him to visit Thuc Tran's grave together. Thua Hon took Kai Min to the cemetery, especially bringing Thuc Tran's favorite butterfly cake. He advised Kai Min to rest well, otherwise Thuc Tran wouldn't be able to visit him in his dreams. Kai Min wanted to tell Thua Hon something, but Thuc Tran's lawyer suddenly called to inform him about the interview. Kai Min, Ian Ngok, Lai Thiem, and Thua Hon went to the law firm on time. The lawyer personally read Thuc Tran's will, giving all her jewelry to Ian Ngok and all her money to Thua Hon. She gave Kai Min a villa and handed over full control of the hotel complex to Thua Hon. Kai Min thought that Thuc Tran would hand over the management and ownership of the hotel to his grandson, but he was surprised when she gave it to Thua Hon instead, someone not related by blood. Kai Min left the table before the lawyer finished speaking, so Thua Hon had to hand over Thuc Tran's final letter to him. Thua Hon was very surprised after hearing the will. He didn't even know that the hotel belonged to Thuc Tran. When the news of Thuc Tran handing over the hotel to Thua Hon reached the architect, he was extremely surprised. He immediately called Kai Min to remind him not to forget their contract. Kai Min was distressed and went fishing by the river in the rain. Ha Dong persuaded Kai Min to return to Switzerland. Kai Min remembered Thuc Tran's instructions before her death, asking him to learn from Thua Hon. The plan to demolish the alley was finally executed. Lai Thiem reconsidered multiple times and decided to use the demolition money to buy a house in the suburbs. Ian Ngok was very comfortable in the garden house and didn't want to move to the suburbs. The law firm notified Thua Hon to come to the hotel to complete the handover procedures. Vin Han insisted on accompanying her. Thua Hon felt that something was not right with Kai Min. He already knew about Hung In. The hotel belonged to Thuc Tran, and the butler had been with her for many years, very loyal to her. He personally took Thua Hon around the hotel and handed over all the books and keys to him at once. She didn't know what to do. The butler promised to do his best to help Thua Hon. Kai Min met with Thua Hon and bluntly requested to use the old wooden house to build a hotel. Thua Hon guessed that Kai Min's purpose in returning to China was because of this hotel. He then approached Thua Hon and took him and Thuc Tran to a mountain resort. Kai Min admitted this intention. He felt that Thuc Tran's business philosophy was outdated and wanted to completely change the current situation. She flatly refused, violating Thuc Tran's last wish, and gave Thuc Tran's letter to Kai Min. When Thuc Tran handed over the hotel to Thua Hon, she guessed that Kai Min would not be happy. Thua Hon read through the hotel's books from start to finish, realizing that the hotel's operating conditions were not good, which made her somewhat worried. The architect noticed that Kai Min was wavering, so he sent someone to deliver gifts to the hotel to distract Thua Hon. Vin Han wanted to hang a photo on the wall, but almost fell because he couldn't stand firmly. Thua Tao hurriedly came to help her in time. Hui Dan mocked Vin Han and spoke harshly to Thua Tao. Thua Tao stood up to defend Vin Han and wanted to use legal weapons to deal with Hui Dan, so Hui Dan angrily left. Vin Han didn't want Thua Tao to be implicated, so he expressed his feelings for her and admitted that he had liked her for a long time. Vin Han lost his guard against Thua Tao's sudden confession and quickly left with the excuse of inventorying. The old house of Ian Ngok's family was about to be demolished. Thua Hon took over the hotel. She happily went home for dinner, while Ian Ngok woke up and smiled in her dream. Both her elder sister and younger brother heard the news of Ian Ngok's family's happy event and called her one after another to congratulate her. Ian Ngok welcomed them to Shanghai and invited them to stay at the hotel. Ian Ngok was in a good mood. She took Lai Thiem to the hotel to check the food quality. Ian Ngok was very picky and recorded everything in a notebook, also instructing the butler to call the head chef to hold him accountable. The butler had no choice but to obey and secretly called Thua Hon. Ian Ngok was giving orders to the head chef, who was very dissatisfied, and he continued to do this to persuade Ian Ngok to leave. Thua Hon asked Ian Ngok to move out of the old house as soon as possible. Thuc Tran had handed over the house to Kai Min. Thua Hon read through the issues that Ian Ngok wrote in her notebook from beginning to end. There were many noteworthy points, but most of the issues still persisted. Tran called Thua Hon for help. The person she helped connect with the temporary tourist group encountered a difficult situation, and Thua Hon arranged for those tourists she brought to stay at the hotel. Thua Hon stayed up late and worked overtime to write a banquet plan. She was busy until the early morning and eventually fell asleep on the table. The butler, from early morning, brought breakfast to Thua Hon and presented the banquet plan to her. The butler immediately went to prepare, and Thua Hon went to the apartment to hand over the work. The manager and colleagues didn't want to leave, so Thua Hon reluctantly bid them farewell and met Kai Min, feeling bitter knowing that she would go to the hotel to lose her writing. The butler surprised Thua Hon by calling her. The Health Supervision Department received an anonymous report from a consumer claiming that he was poisoned after eating at the hotel. The health department ordered the hotel to close for rectification. In turn, asking Thua Hon, she quickly returned to the hotel, temporarily closed, and room service continued as usual. The guests insisted on checking out and leaving Thua Hon feeling helpless. Ian Ngok called Thua Hon to hold her responsible. She had arranged for her most important clients to stay at the hotel. Unexpectedly, there was a poisoning incident at the hotel. Thua Hon promised to help her clients find another hotel, at the same price as soon as possible, and Mrs. Du Chen was ready to give up. Thua Hon went to the kitchen to investigate. The butler and head chef both took the initiative to take responsibility and advised them not to worry, waiting for the test result. The test results came quickly, and there was no problem with the food here, so Thua Hon was reassured. Kai Min saw someone setting a trap for the hotel and scorned this method. Despite the test results being announced, someone posted a video online claiming that the hotel's food was problematic, causing him food poisoning. They also provided test results. The butler discussed finding the person who spread the rumor online as soon as possible to publicly clarify the situation. Kai Min sent Ha Dong to find the person who set the trap for the hotel as soon as possible, while also asking him to meet Mr. Liu from the global golf competition that the architect was following this project. Kai Min proactively helped Thua Hon. Thua Hon suspected that Kai Min was behind the scenes and wanted to conceal ownership rights, so Kai Min wanted to find out the truth and prove his innocence, so Thua Hon had to do so. Kai Min, the butler, and Thua Hon investigated and collected separate evidence, then compiled the clues they obtained. The three worked all night, and in the end, they were exhausted. Kai Min handed Thua Hon a cup of coffee to wake her up, and Thua Hon accidentally spilled coffee on Kai Min. The butler asked Kai Min to change into the hotel uniform and saw Kai Min gobbling noodles in a bowl, remembering that Thuk Tran had told her before she died that she looked at Kai Min in horror, making him feel embarrassed. Ha Dong quickly found the person setting the trap, and Thua Hon called him, but he refused to answer. Thua Hon lied that he wanted to negotiate compensation, and the man promised to meet Thua Hon as soon as possible. Mai Thua Tao arrived at the agreed location early, quickly recognized the person, and sent a message to inform Thua Hon to come with her to the fast food restaurant to check the person's medical records, and briefly saw that he was there. Thua Hon thanked Vin Han and Thua Tao for their help. She was in a hurry to meet Kai Min and couldn't host them for dinner. Thua Tao apologized to Vin Han and admitted that he had confessed to her suddenly that day, and Vin Han quickly changed the subject. Thua Hon immediately ran back to share the good news with everyone. The butler, head chef, and others were very happy and immediately forwarded the clarifying video to WeChat on the spot. Thoi, the butler, received a notification from higher-ups that the hotel could continue to operate. The architect heard that Kai Min had secretly met with Mr. Liu and scolded Kai Min. Unexpectedly, Kai Min had snatched Ian Ngok's clients and exposed that she had found the person who set the trap. Thua Hon came to meet Kai Min and heard their conversation outside the door. Thua Hon guessed that the architect was behind the incident, so he invited Kai Min to dinner to express his gratitude. Kai Min admitted that he and the architect had collaborated to win, and he personally expressed his love for Thua Hon. Thua Hon was overwhelmed by Kai Min's sudden confession, and the coffee in his hand spilled all over the floor without him realizing it. Kai Min repeatedly apologized to her. Thua Hon went to see Vin Han overnight and told Kai Min about his confession. Vin Han suspected that Kai Min wanted to take over the hotel. Thua Hon felt that Kai Min was very sincere, and Vin Han felt that they were very compatible. The architect had carefully planned to defeat her, but it turned out to be a mess. The architect didn't want to admit defeat. She wanted to exploit Kai Min's weakness. Ian Ngok's mother sent many messages to Thua Hon, but Thua Hon did not respond. Worried, Ian Ngok's mother cooked rice balls early in the morning and asked Bo Lai Thien to deliver them to Thua Hon. Thua Hon officially took over the hotel and called all the staff to work together. Lu Kwang publicly attacked Thua Hon and even mocked her for understanding the circumstances of each employee and knowing them well. Lu Kwang started as a doorman and was promoted to floor manager for her excellent work. She also realized that Thuk Tran's management model was no longer keeping up with the situation, so she had to gradually adjust the salary structure and promised bonuses and dividends for outstanding employees. He regarded the hotel as his home, and the staff applauded Thua Hon together. Bo Lai Thiem entered, saw this scene, and felt very happy. He felt sorry for Thua Hon, not wanting her to be too tired. While eating the rice balls made by Ian Ngok's mother, he felt warm inside. Thua Hon wanted to make things pleasant, so after settling her work, she went home and had a happy conversation with Ian Ngok's mother. Kai Min reported his work to the headquarters leader. The leader, influenced by Bo Sin's slander, ordered Kai Min to acquire the hotel within a month. Kai Min did not expect Bo Sin to be behind the scenes. Faced with the choice between Thua Hon and the hotel, Kai Min did not commit. He had someone deliver a green plant to Thua Hon, wishing her business success. Ian Ngok's mother brought Di Vuong, an old neighbor, to the house garden and asked her to help introduce a partner to Thua Hon. When Thua Hon returned home from work, Ian Ngok's mother was very happy. Di Vuong apologized and left first. Ian Ngok's mother urged Thua Hon to move back as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, Thua Hon asked them to move out and rent a house. Ian Ngok's mother, accustomed to living in the house garden, did not want to move. When Kai Min came home from work, he brought the freshest salmon, and Ian Ngok's mother cooked a large table of dishes. She didn't dare eat raw fish and persuaded Ian Ngok's mother to eat more home-cooked food. After eating, Kai Min voluntarily washed the dishes. Due to a tight schedule and heavy workload, Vin Han stayed up late and worked overtime to design the inspirational drawings. Thua Tao took her out to find ideas. It was raining heavily outside, and Thua Tao was walking in the rain with an umbrella. Thua Tao chose a romantic song to share with her. Despite the rain, Vin Han didn't show weakness but splashed water strongly. Everyone along the way laughed and chatted happily. Thua Tao took Vin Han to a store, and he went to buy 2 cups of brown sugar ginger tea. Vin Han suddenly got inspired when she saw the raindrops and excitedly hugged Thua Tao. The business cooperation between Kai Min and Mr. Mok is progressing smoothly. Thua Hon knew she couldn't compete with Botticelli in terms of business activities, so she followed Kai Min's suggestion and decided to launch a Shanghai-style wedding project. On the fishing trip, Thua Hon's father was very impressed with Kai Min's fancy car. He was so absorbed in talking that he lost focus on driving, so Thua Hon had to remind him. Younger brother Thua Tao then challenged Kai Min to see who could catch more fish when they got to the lake. At the lake, Kai Min tried to find a way to get rid of Mr. Mok and Thua Tao, but they were so well prepared that Kai Min's plan was hard to execute. Thua Hon had to step in, asking her father and brother to help start a fire while she and Kai Min took care of the fishing, giving the young couple some privacy. Kai Min tried to show off his fishing skills, but the fish bit Thua Hon's line instead. Kai Min quickly tried to help pull the fish up, but ended up flinging both the rod and the fish onto a tree branch. So, their dinner that night included grilled fish for the 4 of them. Meanwhile, the mother was at home eating alone and complaining to the 2 turtles. Then Kai Min took the old man home. She felt a little drunk and worried about safety, seeing that the 2 grandparents were taking care of him. Kai Min was very happy together. That night Kai Min worked all night, so the next morning she called him up for breakfast but never saw him open the door. She thought he was having a stroke, but luckily he opened the door. When I went downstairs, I saw the couple busy preparing food and thinking that I would make it for myself. He was hesitant to do it to prepare for her return, so he bet her that her husband would not come home and he would personally drive her to pick her up. So the brain took the 2 of them to the company to celebrate the birthday party. As they went, she confided a lot about her daughter. The mother and daughter were at odds, so now it was difficult to talk to each other, but Kai Min gave her permission. Advised on harmony, while she was going, she used the excuse of a headache to hide and not want to meet the man, but because of the encouragement of the old man and the wise man, she agreed to meet. Just then, Thua Hon's parents arrived and gave the bald man a lesson for bullying their daughter. As a result, Mrs. Lu was taken to the police station for assault because the drunkard pressed charges. At the station, Thua Hon saw her mother's love and determination to protect her daughter, no matter who the bully was. She hugged her mother, and all past misunderstandings were cleared. Outside, Kai Min and Mr. Mok waited, encountering the drunk man with a battered face. Using his connections and skills, Kai Min negotiated with the drunk, and though it's unclear what was said, the man withdrew his complaint against Mrs. Lu, resolving the matter peacefully. Kai Min also thoughtfully had his assistant buy Mrs. Lu a new pair of shoes since her previous ones were lost during the scuffle. Thua Hon and her mother returned home happily, making Kai Min feel joyful. That evening, Thua Hon massaged her mother's shoulders, and they talked, sharing many things and overcoming previous barriers. Mao Mao visited and chatted for a while before Thua Tao offered to take her home. They held hands as they walked, unsure of how to make their relationship public since one was quite young and the other had just divorced and had a child. But they decided to embrace love regardless. Thua Hon and her mother returned home happily, making Kai Min feel joyful. That evening, Thua Hon massaged her mother's shoulders, and they talked, sharing many things and overcoming previous barriers. Mao Mao visited and chatted for a while before Thua Tao offered to take her home. They held hands as they walked, unsure of how to make their relationship public since one was quite young and the other had just divorced and had a child. But they decided to embrace love regardless. Tham Hon returned home feeling very familiar and warm. Kai Min invited her out for a chat and explained how he had used the drunkard's wife to threaten him into reconciling. While they were talking, the police called, informing them that Truong Tuangak was involved in a money scam and needed Kai Min to come quickly to resolve it. At the police station, Tuangak was like a lion out of its cage, ready to devour the scammer despite the police officers' attempts to calm her down. Fortunately, Kai Min arrived and bailed her out. After buying medicine for Tuangak, they parted ways, each going back to their own homes. While abroad, he might have been her guardian, but back home, everyone fends for themselves. Tuangak returned home just as her mother was having a meeting with the company's staff. However, her noisy entrance annoyed her mother, who could do nothing about it. Moreover, her mother learned that Tuangak had dropped out of school abroad and returned to become a travel blogger, much to her father's disappointment. The next morning, Mrs. Lu prepared many traditional dishes for Thua Hon. She even carefully arranged for her to meet some well-off families, but Thua Hon declined, citing that she was late for work and then left. Mrs. Lu noticed that although her daughter had returned home, her mind was still preoccupied with work. After breakfast, Mrs. Lu went to a senior class that Thua Hon had previously enrolled her in. She learned many interesting things and felt quite excited, telling Mr. Mok that she would try her best not to disappoint her daughter anymore. The following morning, Mrs. Lu's older sister's family visited and was very surprised to see Mrs. Lu's spacious villa. They also learned that Thua Hon had recently taken over the management of a large hotel, so Mrs. Lu planned to take everyone there for lunch. At the hotel, wanting to show off a bit, Mrs. Lu generously booked the VIP room for her sister's family. However, when the system asked for a deposit, she was stuck because she didn't have enough money and hoped the hotel would make an exception since her daughter worked there. However, business rules couldn't be bent for personal reasons. Manager Thoy had to report this to Thua Hon for a resolution. Thua Hon handled the situation skillfully, ensuring no hard feelings while maintaining the hotel's procedures, and she covered all her family's expenses at the hotel. During lunch, Thua Hon learned that back in their hometown, her cousin Phuong Kiat often bullied her younger brother Thua Tao and falsely accused him of stealing money, leading to a beating from their second uncle. Unwilling to eat with the family, Thua Tao left. At that moment, another relative, Phuong Dat, arrived and recognized Thua Hon. The uncomfortable lunch was filled with awkward moments as Thua Hon's uncles kept bringing up marriage proposals, suggesting that Phuong Dat, a well-matched prospect, would be a good match. Thua Hon declined, explaining that she wanted to focus on her career and preferred to find a partner on her own. Mrs. Lu supported her daughter, mentioning that Thua Hon's high standards made it difficult to find a suitable match. After lunch, everyone went to their rooms to rest. Thua Hon thoughtfully gave her card to her mother to ensure her uncles and cousins had a good time. When Mrs. Lu returned home, she ran into Truong Tuangak, who was asking for directions to Deep Kai Min's house. Recognizing Mrs. Lu, Tuangak introduced herself as Kai Min's girlfriend and was invited home, where she ate 3 full bowls of rice and was offered yogurt. Kai Min arrived home, surprised to see Tuangak there. He explained that she was just the daughter of an acquaintance visiting and quickly took her outside to avoid any further inconvenience. That evening, when Thua Hon returned home, her mother informed her that a girl named Truong had visited Kai Min and claimed to be his girlfriend. Hearing this, Thua Hon felt a bit sad and went to her room to think. Meanwhile, Truong Tuangak, wanting to investigate who Thua Hon was, went to a bar to find Ha Dong, who was fooling around with some girls there. The next day at the hotel, a small boy named Cao Cao, while playing, dirtied a guest's dress, causing an unnecessary argument between the two parties. Thua Hon had to intervene, apologize to the guest, and offer a free room for the day. The guest, seeing Thua Hon's understanding demeanor, agreed to let it go, and the matter was resolved smoothly. However, Thua Hon's uncle didn't know his place and criticized her for being arrogant and lecturing elders. Angered, Thua Hon didn't hold back and firmly stated that if her uncle's family wanted to stay, they had to follow the hotel's rules. This escalated the tension, but fortunately, Phuong Dat arrived to mediate and invited everyone to go sightseeing. Phuong Dat was there to discuss a cooperation plan with Thua Hon. While they were discussing plans, from a distance, Truong Tuangak secretly observed and took photos. Kai Min, noticing Tuangak sneaking around the hotel, wanted to kick her out. However, as a travel blogger, her presence was justifiable. She even wanted to work at the hotel and directly compete with Thua Hon. After expressing her intentions, she stubbornly ran straight to Thua Hon's office to apply for a job. Given that she was a relative of Kai Min, Thua Hon politely welcomed her. This was also the first time Kai Min met Phuong Dat, who was planning a wedding for an upcoming client with Thua Hon. Thua Hon required Tuangak to follow the hotel's interview process and asked her to come back with a plan and reasons for wanting to work at Hung and Lai Hotel. Agreeing with the sound reasoning, Tuangak complied and dragged Kai Min away. That evening, knowing that Thua Hon was under a lot of pressure from work and family, Kai Min invited her out. They took a double-decker bus to tour the city. Seizing the moment, Kai Min confessed his feelings to Thua Hon, seriously asking her to be his girlfriend. She wanted him to prove his sincerity, but he seemed clueless about how to do so. Taking the initiative, Thua Hon kissed Kai Min, leading to a passionate kiss in the back seat of the bus. When they returned home, Thua Hon asked Kai Min to keep their relationship private for the time being to avoid complications with her relatives, especially her parents. They planned to announce it when the time was right. They sneakily held hands, shared a farewell kiss, and each went to their own room. The spark of love left them both exhilarated. After just saying goodbye, they ran to their balconies to express how much they missed each other and made plans to go to work together the next day. Mrs. Lu, hearing noises from her room, thought there were mice outside. Meanwhile, Phua Tao took Phuong Kiat's family and Mao Mao's family to the aquarium. During a break, Cao Cao, Phuong Kiat's son, had a conflict over toys with Mao Mao's son, leading to a dispute. Phuong Kiat tried to lecture Phua Tao, but Phua Tao stood up to him, making him back down. Although it seemed the situation was resolved, Phuong Kiat reported it to his parents. As a result, Phua Tao was called home and received a scolding from his mother and uncles. Phua Tao felt resentful because he had endured too much from the aunt's family over the years. Seeing his attitude, the uncle sneered that Mrs. Lu didn't know how to teach her children, letting them argue with their elders. Mrs. Lu demanded that Phua Tao apologize, but he refused and even said he didn't need to stay in this house anymore, then turned and left. He asked Kai Min, who was standing outside, to tell his sister not to worry about him because he needed some quiet time. Reaching his limit, Phua Hon revealed all the bad things that his cousin Phuong Kiat had done to bully Phua Tao. It was only because Phua Tao had endured it to maintain family harmony. The uncle, seeing this, lectured again, insulting Phua Hon's family for seeking help in the past, and now, having become wealthy, showing no respect to anyone. Feeling indignant, Kai Min stepped in, telling the aunt's family that they were trespassing and harassing because this house belonged to him. Unable to do anything, the aunt's family left in anger. The aunt could only apologize to Mrs. Lu before leaving as well. Outside, Phua Hon vented all her anger to Kai Min. He listened to all her grievances and gave her advice to calm down and handle the situation. Phua Tao, holding back his sadness, went to Mao Mao's house to visit her and Ding Ding. Since Phua Hon had called Mao Mao beforehand to inform her, she was very understanding of Phua Tao's mood, comforting him to cheer him up. If he didn't want to go home, this would be his home. He was grateful and hugged Mao Mao. Mrs. Lu was very upset about the argument with her sister's family. Kai Min felt guilty for driving the aunt's family away, so he sincerely apologized to Mrs. Lu. Meanwhile, the aunt's family had left a mess in the hotel room before leaving, forcing Phua Hon to roll up her sleeves and help the cleaning staff tidy up in time for the next guests. The next day, Phua Hon and Phuong Dat were walking when a little girl selling flowers commented that they made a lovely couple and invited them to buy flowers. At that moment, Kai Min arrived and bought all the flowers to give to Phua Hon. The two openly showed their affection in front of Phuong Dat, making him lose hope of pursuing Phua Hon. Afterwards, the couple visited Mao Mao's house to see Phua Tao and also revealed their relationship to their friends. The friends didn't hesitate to share their own relationship, making Phua Hon very happy. Phua Tao then remembered the messages from their mother, wishing the whole family would reunite. With her birthday approaching, a traditional family gathering was planned, so everyone would come together that day. Transitioning, Luong Tuangok arrived for her interview with Phua Hon as promised, submitting her CV and marketing plan. The Hung and Lai Hotel gave her a warm feeling she never felt at home. She wanted to prove herself to her mother and improve their relationship. Feeling a deep connection, Phua Hon accepted Tuangok into the team, making her very happy. Phua Hon then organized an internal staff meeting at the hotel to review the chaos caused by her relatives and plan for the next quarter. Some staff members were dissatisfied with how her relatives had disrupted the hotel and were also unhappy with Phua Hon's standardization plans. Just as everyone was tense, Phua Hon's mother arrived with a lunchbox, making the situation even more awkward. One moment she was talking about standardizing the hotel, and the next, her mother was bringing food into a highly stressful meeting. This undermined Phua Hon's authority as a manager, making it hard for her to maintain credibility. Though very annoyed, she calmly asked her mother not to come during her work hours again to avoid causing disturbances. Mrs. Lu just wanted her daughter to come home, but Phua Hon wanted to live her own life. The harsh words exchanged caused a deep rift, leading to a tense separation between mother and daughter. Phua Hon felt utterly frustrated and helpless, but she couldn't do anything about it. Once she calmed down, Phua Hon called Kai Min, asking him to check on her mother because she realized her words might have been too harsh. Meanwhile, Luong Tuangok comforted Mrs. Lu, expressing admiration for the bond between Phua Hon and her mother. Despite their arguments, they still cared for each other, something she and her own mother could never achieve. Kai Min also returned to comfort Mrs. Lu on Phua Hon's behalf. After Mrs. Lu left, Kai Min informed Tuangok about his relationship with Phua Hon, asking her not to cause trouble anymore. However, Tuangok was happy for him and congratulated him. That evening, Kai Min picked up Phua Hon to help resolve the conflict with her mother. The two women poured out their hearts, understanding each other better after addressing their grievances. They embraced emotionally, rekindling their affection for each other. That night, missing Phua Hon, Kai Min sneaked in to see her. She thanked him for helping reconcile with her mother. The scene shifted to Phua Tao's birthday. Mao Mao had personally chosen a gift for him. When she went to pick up Ding Ding from school for the birthday celebration, the teacher informed her that Ding Ding's father had already picked him up. Mao Mao rushed to her ex-husband's house to reclaim her son, but he refused, filling Ding Ding's head with lies that his mother had abandoned him for a new boyfriend. This made Ding Ding reluctant to return to his mother, despite her efforts to persuade him. Failing to regain custody, Mao Mao went to the hot pot restaurant where Thua Tao was waiting. Her attitude was entirely different, urging Thua Tao to reconsider their relationship. She couldn't keep their love a secret forever and needed to fight for custody of her son. Therefore, she decided to end their romantic relationship. Devastated, Thua Tao forgot about the birthday celebration his family had planned for him. Upon receiving a text, Thua Hon hurried to the location with a cake, leaving Kai Min and her parents to celebrate without the siblings. Thua Hon found Thua Tao at the park, gave him the birthday gift from everyone, and offered advice regarding his situation with Mao Mao. She assured him that she wouldn't pressure him to return and left the decision entirely up to him. Taking his sister's advice to heart, Thua Tao regained his composure and asked her to help organize an event for his parents and the child to mend the relationship between Mao Mao and Ding Ding. Thua Hon was delighted and promised to fully support her brother in making this happen at the Hung and Lai Hotel. She then returned home to talk to her mother on behalf of her brother, explaining his feelings and responsibilities towards the family. Thua Tao needed some time to sort out personal issues before returning home. After their conversation, Mrs. Lu understood and felt more sympathy for her two children. The next morning, Mao Mao was feeling very down for having spoken harshly to Thua Tao. But he surprised her by showing up with a stack of legal documents, determined to help Mao Mao gain custody of her son. He was serious about their relationship and didn't want Mao Mao and her son to suffer. Touched by his dedication, Mao Mao hugged him tightly, missing him deeply. During lunch with Kai Min, Thua Hon asked him for ideas on organizing a parents and children event, eager to help her best friend and brother despite her busy schedule. Meanwhile, Thua Tao and Mao Mao visited the teachers to persuade them to participate in the event at Hung and Lai Hotel. Kai Min returned to the hotel and instructed his assistant, Ha Dong, to prioritize the parents and children event despite other pressing cases. That evening at Tu Ngok's home, she proudly told her mother about her new job at Hung and Lai Hotel, but her mother was disappointed, criticizing her for not aiming higher and taking such a lowly position. Tu Ngok defended her choice, arguing that she wanted to pursue her own path, not just fulfill her mother's expectations. The argument led to Tu Ngok storming out. The next morning, the hotel staff prepared for the parents and children event. Liu Kuang, the head of the reception department who held a grudge against Thua Hon, approached Fuong Dat and took responsibility for the event's stage setup. Fuong Dat trusted him with the task. Meanwhile, in an online meeting with partner Amber, Kai Min and Mrs. Thuong Bo Sin discussed stronger business strategies. Mrs. Truong and Amber had to agree to restore Kai Min's managerial rights over the hotel. After the meeting, Kai Min warned Mrs. Truong not to meddle with Hung and Lai Hotel again, or she would face serious consequences. At the event, Thua Tao successfully convinced Ding Ding that his mother always loved and protected him. The boy agreed to participate in the games, rekindling the bond between mother and son. During a children's performance, a strong gust of wind caused the event's backdrop to wobble. Thua Hon quickly noticed and, with Kai Min's timely assistance, managed to secure it, preventing it from collapsing onto the children. Disaster averted, Kai Min gifted Thua Hon a commemorative necklace as a token of their love. That evening, Thua Hon was furious, reprimanding Fuong Dat for the poorly executed setup. Fuong Dat revealed that Liu Kuang, the reception manager, was responsible, further angering Thua Hon. She demanded an emergency meeting the next day. In the meeting, Thua Hon praised everyone for their excellent work on the event, but then reprimanded Liu Kuang, firing him for cutting corners and accepting bribes. Despite his protests and attempts to blame her management, Thua Hon stood firm. In a final act of defiance, Liu Kuang threw a glass of water in Thua Hon's face before storming out. All the events were recorded by Tu Ngok with her camera. When Kai Min saw the video, he was extremely angry. He immediately went to find Thua Hon to console her. Seeing that she looked unwell, he took her to the medical room to rest. The next day, Thua Tao returned home to visit his family. His mother was deeply moved to see him. He brought sweet cakes for his mother and sister, and his mother made his favorite shrimp dumplings. The two had a heartfelt conversation, resolving the lingering issues from their previous argument. That evening, a strange man burst into their home, frightening Mrs. Lu and Thua Hon. The man claimed to be Kai Min's father, visiting to see his son. Thua Hon recalled that Kai Min had told her about his father abandoning the family during their toughest times. Realizing this was indeed Kai Min's father, the mother and daughter decided to call Kai Min to handle the situation. Kai Min returned, furious that his father, who had abandoned him and his mother, had come back. He dragged his father outside and drove him straight to the airport, telling him to go back to Sweden. However, his father insisted on staying to reconcile with Kai Min and ran away at a red light. Kai Min was left fuming, recalling his childhood when his father's drinking and gambling tore the family apart, forcing him to fend for himself. The next morning, Kai Min's father arrived at the hotel, claiming it belonged to him. However, Thua Hon managed the hotel according to their grandmother's will, but the father refused to listen. He demanded that Thua Hon hand over the hotel to Kai Min. Thua Hon, trying to avoid a scene, agreed to arrange a room for him and informed Kai Min about it. She instructed the staff not to let him into the work areas and paid for the room out of her pocket. Later, Kai Min went to the room and demanded his father leave immediately. The crafty old man refused, snatched his passport, and locked himself in the bathroom. Frustrated that his father kept causing trouble for Thua Hon and the hotel, Kai Min decided to get rid of him. Returning home, knowing Kai Min was upset, Thua Hon wore a sunflower costume and danced to cheer him up. They then had a heartfelt talk where she comforted him, sharing her experience in dealing with parental disputes and promised to help him with his father. Just as they were talking, Mrs. Lu came up, and they had to pretend they were not concerned with each other to avoid raising her suspicions. Then Mr. Mok sat down to confide in Thua Hon, thanking her for enthusiastically helping him and his son Kai Min. What she did created a stepping stone for Kai Min to come down and reconcile with his father. Next morning, Dien Hanfu, Kai Min's father, gathered the hotel staff to scold and incite them to strike for better benefits. Mrs. Lu, who lived nearby and heard this, went and scolded the wretched Dien Hanfu. So the two future in-laws sat down to drink coffee and glare at each other. From then on, Mrs. Lu would closely monitor Dien Hanfu's actions to prevent him from affecting her daughter. Meanwhile, Kai Min went fishing with Mr. Mok, who knew about Kai Min and his daughter dating. Mr. Mok worried about Kai Min's situation with his father due to the complex family relations. After some discussion, Kai Min assured Mr. Mok that he would devote his life to treating Thua Han well, not repeating his father's mistakes. With Mr. Mok's approval of the relationship, on the way home Kai Min gave his future father-in-law a ride. In another development, Mrs. Truongboy wanted to counter Kai Min, so she invited Dien Hanfu over, trying to lure him to support her at the hotel with money, as she also wanted Dien Hanfu to regain control of the hotel from Kai Min. Unable to deal with Thua Han, Dien Hanfu approached Mrs. Lu to seduce her into a romantic relationship. Mrs. Kanal Lu felt disgusted and went to Kai Min's new company. From the conversation with Dien Hanfu, she learned that her daughter and Kai Min were dating the mouse making noise on the roof every night was him. After investigating, Mrs. Lu finally agreed to let the young couple date, requesting that after marriage, Kai Min move in with them to have a larger family, which the poet happily accepted. Then Mrs. Lu followed Kai Min to inspect shops to see if he was fooling around. After an exhausting day, she had to admit there was no time for misbehavior. At home, Mrs. Lu questioned the young couple about their relationship. Though worried Kai Min's family situation would affect Thua Han, he pledged it would not happen. Kai Min sincerely wanted to marry Thua Han and would have a lawyer draft a commitment leaving all his assets to her as assurance. He hoped Mrs. Lu would give him a chance to become part of this family. Then Mr. Mok came in and broke the serious atmosphere because he had known about this for a long time but didn't bother to tell Mrs. Lu, making her sulk. So Mrs. Lu scolded Mr. Mok at length for concealing it. Thua Han came in to continue persuading her mother to accept the relationship between her and Kai Min. Thua Han assessed that Kai Min is a very good and ethical person, both in work and romantic matters. After some convincing, Mrs. Lu agreed and trusted her daughter's judgment. In a scene showing Kai Min and Dien Hanfu bonding better, Thua Han specially arranged an evaluation session at the hotel with Dien Hanfu as the keynote speaker. When it comes to indulgence and enjoyment, no one matches Dien Hanfu. Taking this chance to reunite with Kai Min, Dien Hanfu invited him to lunch to rebuild their father-son bond. During the meal, Dien Hanfu wanted to reconcile, but Kai Min remained aloof. Seeing his dad brought shady alcohol, realizing he was tricked, Kai Min had to call for his own alcohol to serve his dad. After getting drunk, Thua Han and Kai Min had to carry Dien Hanfu to his room in a cargo vehicle. Afterwards, Thua Han encouraged Kai Min to give his dad another chance at reconciliation, as blood ties are sacred no matter what. He is still Kai Min's father, and he has acknowledged his mistakes. Grateful for Thua Han's efforts, Kai Min warmly embraced her. In another development, Mrs. Truongboy's assistant sought out Dien Hanfu to get a hotel staff card, so her granddaughter could access a celebrity staying at the Hungenlily Hotel. Dien Hanfu seized the chance when the receptionists were distracted to steal a staff card. When he ran into Thuahan outside, she enthusiastically showed him how to use the smart key card to access rooms and even invited him to her home for an intimate meal, making Dien Hanfu feel slightly guilty about his thievery. Meanwhile, Kai Min and Thuahan's parents went grocery shopping to prepare a reunion dinner for the whole family. Today, Mrs. Liu made a dish called tofu fish soup, which has an extremely difficult preparation method. After teaching the recipe, she handed over all the work to Kai Min to let him get creative in the kitchen. Thuahan found him so adorable, wondering if he could actually cook anything edible. Mrs. Liu and Mr. Mok went to the living room to enjoy tea and cakes while waiting for their future son-in-law to cook for them. They even called Thuatao to brag that her brother has a girlfriend, so he should come home from the distant horizon to see her. Meanwhile, Thuatao was at the supermarket shopping with Mao Mao. On another side, Dien Hanfu brought the stolen staff card to Secretary Trao. He also secretly recorded the conversation to capture whatever scheme Mrs. Truongboy was plotting against his son. He didn't want to repay kindness with resentment since Thuahan helped reconcile him with his son. He returned the money previously received from Mrs. Truong, but once committed, there's no turning back. That secretary demanded that if he returned the money, he must pay it back plus 20% interest, shocking Dien Hanfu. The next morning, the Hunganlili Hotel suddenly lost power for unknown reasons, just before welcoming a delegation of guests for a retreat, leaving Thuahan very worried as she tried to restore power. Feeling guilty, Dien Hanfu revealed that someone intentionally cut the power lines, promising to explain later, but first they needed to fix it. He then told Thuahan this was all part of Mrs. Truongboy's sabotage plan. He had recorded the secretary's threats and showed it to Thuahan. After checking, the manager found the electrical room had been vandalized, requiring an hour's repair work. But the delegation would arrive in 15 minutes, too long to make them wait. Thuahan cleverly asked Dien Hanfu to take the delegation on a tour of Shanghai's history since he's a talented orator. Touched by Thuahan's trust, Dien Hanfu promised not to let her down. Indeed, Thuahan was right. Dien Hanfu enlightened the guests on the history of the Hunganlili Hotel, which he once owned, buying lots of time with his captivating speech. Thuahan sincerely thanked Dien Hanfu. If it weren't for Dien Hanfu, today's events would not have gone so smoothly. When Kai Min learned the news, he angrily accused his father of conspiring with Mrs. Truong to sabotage the hotel. Thuahan rushed to explain and defend Dien Hanfu to calm Kai Min down. They then went to Mrs. Truong's office to interrogate her. As she kept denying it, the police arrived to arrest her for inciting property damage. The saboteur confessed the whole truth, plus Kai Min had a recording of Trao threatening his father. With no way to refute it, Mrs. Greenboy had to go to the station for questioning. On the way back, Thuahan convinced Kai Min to give his father another chance since Dien Hanfu's recent actions showed he was reforming himself. Back at the hotel, Kai Min wanted to talk to Dien Hanfu, but couldn't find him, until Thuahan called and he answered. Overjoyed that his son forgave him and wanted reconciliation, Dien Hanfu immediately headed back. But at an intersection, he wasn't paying attention and a car hit him head-on, causing a severe brain injury. When Kai Min and Thuahan arrived at the hospital, the doctor reported the patient was critical and had passed away, telling the family to make arrangements. Only then did Kai Min regret the hurtful words he said to his father. It was too late for father and son to reunite, and just as they were about to, his father was gone. Kai Min stayed in Dien Hanfu's room all night, oblivious to the outside world, while Thuahan dozed off outside waiting for him. Mrs. Liu and Mr. Mok came, worried about their future son-in-law's state, and went in to console him, urging him to be strong. Seeing no reaction, they insisted he overcome this pain. The deceased are gone, he must live for the future. After that, the elders left the young couple to comfort each other. Thuahan consoled Kai Min, wanting them both to go home. Seeing Kai Min's state, Thuahan's parents personally cooked and prepared tea for their future son-in-law. The noodle bowl with "Happy Birthday" written on it stirred indescribable emotions in Kai Min. It was the first time he felt a family celebrating his birthday, causing him to eat and cry simultaneously. That night, Thuahan told Kai Min not to worry about his father's matters as she and Ha Dong would handle it. She also gave him the souvenir item his father had picked for him as a memento. Thuahan revealed that after eating the longevity noodles, which signified becoming their mother's child, this was now Kai Min's home. Thuahan then hugged her mother to thank her for today. The next morning, the lovebirds visited Dien Hanfu's grave. As a child, Kai Min disliked his selfish, uncaring father. But later he realized he was the one mistaken. Though his father wronged many, only Kai Min saw him as a good person. Soon after, manager Thoi announced Hunganlili Hotel was voted among the top 10 most distinctive large hotels, thanks to everyone's efforts. Thuahan rewarded the staff with bonuses and vacation days. At this moment, Tu Nguok said she had to return to Switzerland. She knew her actions against Hunganlily were wrong, and the bad publicity left her jobless. Now Tuanguak wanted to take her mother to Switzerland for a fresh start, though Hunganlily would welcome her back. In another storyline, Kai Min went to the market Mrs. Lu frequents to buy groceries. But once home, he didn't know how to cook, so he hired help. That night, he boasted to Thuahan's family that he personally cooked these dishes to thank them for their care. They then raised a toast celebrating the lovebirds' joy. Thuahan also thanked her grandmother, saying it was thanks to her that they could be this happy family today, hoping her grandmother found such peace in the afterlife. The next morning, Mrs. Lu received shocking news from the hospital. She had a lung nodule needing further testing. After examination, the doctor informed a devastated Mrs. Lu she had a lung tumor. Back home, she felt chest tightness and breathing difficulties, the symptoms the doctor mentioned. Researching online revealed these were lung cancer symptoms, leaving her crushed. That night when Thuahan returned, she noticed something off about her mother, who dismissed it as just a mild headache. Mrs. Lu then surprisingly urged Kai Min and Thuahan to get married soon, surprising them both. The next morning, after bidding her parents farewell on a trip, Thuahan told Thuatao to reveal his relationship with Mau Mau to their mother. Meanwhile, Mau Mau received news that her son was beaten by Tong Huiden. But when she went there, he had taken the son to his grandmother's place. Tong Huiden deliberately provoked Mau Mau to react extremely so it would be caught on camera and used to sue her. However, Thuahan and Thuatao calmly made him leave. On her trip, Mrs. Lu felt no joy, wanting to return to her children. Thuatao just finished Mau Mau's court case the next day, so he was in a good mood. He held her hand, looking forward to winning the case tomorrow. Right then, Master Yu came home and saw his son holding Mau Mau's hand, so his face darkened. Mau Mau wanted to let go of each other's hands, but Thuatao did not allow that and wanted to publicly announce their feelings to his parents. Thinking that no one would approve of this love, Thua's mother surprisingly encouraged him to win the case. The next day, the case was also successful, and Mau Mau received custody of her child from her ex-husband. She brought Din Din to Thua's house to celebrate the victory together. Everyone had gathered except for Miwei, the mother. The whole family thought the mother was selling vegetables at the market, so they waited a little longer for her to come home and eat together. However, they waited until night, but the mother was nowhere to be seen, so the whole family was very worried. They called relatives but still couldn't find her, so the whole family ran around the world looking for the playful mother. While searching, Kai Min found the mother's keys left at home. He called everyone back, and at that moment, a delivery person came and gave the whole family a parcel, which was a farewell letter from the mother. Because she was angry with her husband, she wanted to go out for some air and eat something to ease her sadness before coming back. After reading the letter, everyone was moved to tears. Just then, Kai Min reported back that the police investigation found that the mother had bought a ticket to Anhai. Hearing this, Thua thought his mother had gone to her aunt's house and called, but was told that his mother had not come there. Thua then thought his mother had gone back to the vegetable garden and fish pond. Indeed, the mother had returned there and was living in their old house. The next morning, Kai Min and Thua Hon also came here. They went around looking and discovered the house where the mother was staying. Seeing her daughter, the mother hurriedly put on makeup to look pretty and quickly opened the door. Thua Hon scolded his mother for leaving without him, but now his mother didn't care about the world and didn't need anyone by her side anymore, which made Thua Hon very heartbroken. Kai Min helped Thuatao answer the phone, reporting that they had found Mrs. Lu in a village house. He reassured her that they haven't determined yet whether her mother's tumor is benign or malignant. The priority now is persuading her to return for treatment. However, no matter what Thuahan said, Mrs. Lu refused to leave, so Thuahan decided to stay with her. Mrs. Lu made things difficult by ordering extremely spicy food to deter them from staying. But no matter how she treated them, Thuahan remained. At this point, Thuahan's father and Thuatao also arrived. The father was furious at his wife's behavior. Thuatao had to drop an important case. Meanwhile, Kai Min and Thuahan didn't care that hotel staff followed Mrs. Lu here. Previously, the father was patient, knowing his wife's temperament. If they both acted out, the family would break apart. Today, he demanded his wife return for treatment or he would divorce her. But Mrs. Lu didn't care about divorce threats, saying if she got to live, she would definitely change her excessive behavior. However, she didn't know if this illness was curable. She then told Mr. Mok that if she passes away, he shouldn't grieve but live happily and find someone to care for him. Mr. Mok scolded her, rambling in life she was his, in death her ghost. He regretted having no talents to give Mrs. Lu a single happy day. Just as their daughters succeeded, she fell ill. Thuahan consoled her father, deciding to stay a week to persuade her mother. If she still refused, they would forcibly take her back. Mr. Mok was happy to see his mature daughter capable of being the family's pillar. The next morning, Mrs. Lu woke to find everyone stayed and was cleaning to live with her. While cooking, Thuotao informed his mother about a case requiring his return. Mrs. Lu apologized, as when Thuahan was ill as a child, she often left Thuotao with his grandmother, feeling guilty about being absent in his childhood. But Thuotao understood long ago and just hoped his mother would get healthier to nag him again. The following morning, everyone took Mrs. Lu outside for fresh air, where they ran into Miss Wang, who happily invited them all to eat. Then Kai Min and Thuahan went duck catching, amused that the hosts were doing this. Meanwhile, Thuahan's father helped Mrs. Lu and Miss Wang take commemorative photos. Seeing her smiling mother, Thuahan felt joy and understood why she came here. Later at a restaurant, Mrs. Lu complained the fish seasoning wasn't as good as a quail fish restaurant from her youth, whose flavor couldn't be replicated. Thuahan and Kai Min searched everywhere for that restaurant, but it had closed long ago. The two didn't give up, tracking down that family's home. However, the elderly lady could no longer cook, and her daughter claimed ignorance. When Kai Min called out Thuahan, the lady realized she was Lu Ian and Guok's daughter. They used to have memorable times together, but she truly didn't know that quail fish dish. Thuahan had an idea to ask the elderly lady to reteach her. After many failed attempts, she finally succeeded. Looking at old photos of her mother, Thuahan was deeply moved. Her mother was famous here with an extremely beautiful singing voice back then. Now her mother stood on the old stage, reminiscing the thunderous applause. That night, Thuahan's father called her, feeling time was running out with her increasingly unstable mother. He wanted to take her back for treatment, but Thuahan wanted to help restore her mother's will to life. The next day, she brought the quail fish dish for her mother to try. Kai Min said Thuahan went all the way to the Feng family's home to learn it, touching her mother. That evening, there was a village play, so everyone went to watch. Thuotao had returned and arrived early to reserve seats for his parents. On stage, Kai Min and Thuahan performed a play about her mother's life, a talented, intelligent, beautiful singer. However, for many reasons, she couldn't pursue her dream, instead carrying her luggage away from her hometown for 30 years. From a young lady, she became a wife then mother, using her courage to shelter the family while striving for her children's success. She aged day by day, her dream remaining hidden and unrealized. Yet in her heart, she always hoped to return to the stage one day. At this point, Thuotao brought out a performance costume, and everyone cheered for her to take the stage. Seeing her joyfully singing and dancing, Thuahan felt overjoyed, recalling precious moments with her mother. The play ended with roaring applause, her mother's face full of fulfillment. Finally, her mother agreed to return to Shanghai with the family. Waiting for test results, everyone was anxious. When she emerged, her mother fainted, worrying them. But she said the doctor gave her a clean bill of health, allowing everyone to breathe a sigh of relief. The previous surgery cleared everything, no more issues. After the groundbreaking ceremony for the partnership between Hungan Lily Garden Hotel and the Viet Dat International Hotel Management Group went well, everyone returned to their old home to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival joyfully.